Meghan Markle's Australian embarrassment just gets worse.
Mr. and Mrs. Grifter, they're coming to Australia next month.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Meghan Markle, having been dumped by Netflix, is heading down under. She's planning an Aussie cash grab.
You know, I just think this is another Montecito money grab.
For that $3,000, you still have to share a room with another woman and a twin bed.
Oh, wow.
Which is wild.
As well as a group photo with the Duchess of Sussex, which I guarantee is going to be a class photo. Meghan will be in the center. Everyone else will be arrayed. It'll be a one-shot deal. Off you go. That's as close as she is getting to the unwashed masses who are going to pay for this.
It will be a group photo op. You will not be getting one-on-one, even if you pay for the VIP experience. It's the bare minimum you can do for your fans, but with Meghan, you might be treated to a massive group ensemble photo, and it'll only cost you $2,000.
She's got yoga straps, pet feeding, gardening tools, bath and shower gel, jewelry, furniture, skin cast, podcasts. Why she's going to teach people how to do a podcast. She was thrown off for that.
Not sure what we did to deserve this one, and not sure why they would bother.
Oh, God, can they just stop with the pseudo-royal tours? I mean, they're like pound store royals at this point. You just can't sort of understand why they're doing this. In a way, it's confected. It's because they're irrelevant. They're falling off the news cycle. Meghan isn't selling any jam.
This woman is desperate for money and is prepared to do pretty much anything to get it.
These two just won't give up, and they're just desperate for this relevance. They've got relevance deprivation syndrome, in my view. But, you know, that's a lot of money. Are people really going to turn up to listen to Meghan?
Australia knows better. Her polling has declined significantly there. I don't think they'd get the welcome that they would want. And Meghan's going to do an intimate fireside chat where she's probably going to regurgitate things like, you know, you just have to anchor in your own knowing.
Wow.
Or she might teach you how to trade one bag of pretzels for another bag of pretzels and call that, you know, elevation. I don't know. But for the most part, I do think that it will be mostly private events and commercial ventures that they're pursuing more so than charity opportunities.
35,000 Australians signed a petition telling Harry and Meghan they are not welcome. And instead of doing what any smart publicist would say, which is stay quiet and let it pass, they did the exact opposite. Meghan's team jumped on the phone, called the press, and fired back hard. And what came out of that call might be one of the most tone-deaf statements this couple has ever been tied to. And that says a lot, because the competition is intense. So today we're breaking it all down. What really happened, why Australia is pushing back so strongly, and what's unfolding behind the gates in Montecito, where even neighbors are now speaking out. And wait, because we're ending with something that could shake the entire Sussex operation if it holds up. This situation has layers, and it keeps getting deeper. Let's start in Australia, where a group called Beyond Australia launched a petition with a clear demand: no taxpayer money and no official backing for Harry and Meghan's upcoming private visit. Within days, more than 35,000 people had signed it. Fast, loud, and organized.
Harry and Meghan plan to rebound from this latest flop with another tour of Australia.
Hasn't Australia suffered enough? What have you done to deserve that?
Then another poll asked Australians straight up, do you want them here? And a massive 95% said no. It didn't stop there. Another online vote asked if they should pay their own way, and 98% said yes, with over 40,000 people weighing in. Now, before anyone tries to downplay it and say 35,000 isn't a big deal, think about this. 35,000 people coming together over a single celebrity visit before it even happens is not normal. It's a signal, and it's getting attention fast. As one commenter put it perfectly, 35,000 people booing them when they arrived in Australia would be a lot of boos. And that line hits harder than it sounds, because this isn't just noise, and it isn't random hate either. Australia remembers, and that memory is very specific. The last time Harry and Meghan were there was back in 2018 during the Commonwealth tour. They had just gotten married. The hype was huge, and the istiqbal was massive.
Kinsey, their last tour here was back in 2018, 18 months before they quit their royal duties and relocated to the US. What sort of reception would you expect them to get this time?
A combination of morbid curiosity with the side of, why are they here?
Yeah.
But according to royal biographer Angela Levin, who knows this situation inside out, Meghan was described as extremely rude to staff. Reports say she pushed for better rooms, complained about crowd sizes, and then there's the moment people still bring up, the hot tea incident involving a staff member. That story has stuck, and people haven't let it go. One Australian commenter summed up the mood in a sharp, simple line: "Shame us once, never again." That energy hasn't faded. It's been sitting there, waiting. So this petition isn't just about money. It's about memory, and people holding on to how they felt back then. They didn't forget, and they weren't planning to.
But I will tell you that lots of Australian viewers of the Mark Dolan show don't want to see Harry and Meghan. The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
And then Meghan's team stepped in and made everything louder. Here's where it gets wild. The spokesperson, and honestly, someone needs to rethink this strategy, put out a statement that had people doing double takes. And listen closely, because you have to hear it to believe it. Of course, if you wanted to dive into the ridiculousness of this petition as an agenda for spreading misinformation, then one could equally hypothesize that there are approximately 26.5 million Australians, 99.98% of the population, who haven't signed it, who must therefore agree with taxpayers covering the bill.
So Meghan's charging 3,000 Aussie dollars if people want to hear her speak at her best life retreat in Sydney. Apparently there's going to be yoga, motivational speaking, manifestation workshops. And here's the real kicker. Those who purchase VIP tickets, they'll be privy to a group table photo with the Duchess and seats in the front 2 rows for the gala dinner. And VIPs will also get an exclusive goodie bag and a premium ocean view hotel room where this retreat is being held. I find this utterly nauseating, if I'm going to be honest, Bronte.
Just pause on that for a second, because this is supposed to be a polished PR strategy from a couple rumored to pay for top-level media teams. They called the petition ridiculous. They labeled it misinformation, and then they flipped it into something even more confusing. Their logic? The silence of 26 million Australians, people who likely never even heard about the petition, who were busy working, making lunches, or stuck in traffic, somehow equals support. That's the argument. By that thinking, every person who didn't sign automatically agrees with what the petition was against. Every parent, every worker, every commuter suddenly counted as supporters without even knowing it. Meghan's team basically pulled millions of people into their corner without asking. Even commentators who usually stay balanced couldn't defend this one.
$3,199 per person. That's
Too
an
much.
That's an expensive weekend just to spend it with the woman who can't seem to launch any business without it failing within weeks. Unbelievable. This is just desperate money making, isn't it?
Kinsey Schofield, who follows this closely, said the statement reeks of animosity and makes it easy to see why their global polling numbers struggle. She also pointed out something simple but powerful. Never complain, never explain, and yet they keep doing the exact opposite. But here's the part that really stands out. The part people didn't ignore. And it matters not just for headlines, but for real financial and legal reasons. It's what the spokesperson didn't say. They said the trip is privately funded. Fine, that sounds neat on paper. But here's what they didn't touch at all. They never addressed whether Australian police will be pulled off regular duties, whether streets will be shut down, or if a full security convoy will roll through. Because all of that hits public resources, no matter who pays for flights and hotels. As one sharp commenter put it, the taxpayers will be paying for street closures, intersection blocking, barricaded roads. And that's the part people are locking in on. Neil Sean even backed this up, saying insider sources confirmed those exact concerns.
A change.org petition, it's got about 30,000 signatures when I last looked, calling for the Duke and Duchess to cover all of their costs of their trip privately with no taxpayer or official support. I think that's absolutely fair enough. But what do you make of these phony royal world tours?
I can't help but think this is all part of their global grift.
Yes, look, I'm with you all the way. I just don't know what Australia's done to deserve this. And the majority of us probably don't even want them here because, as I said, they're Mr. and Mrs. Grifter.
And suddenly the conversation shifts fast, because that's the real question everyone's asking. And it's the one thing the spokesperson completely avoided. And that silence, it wasn't subtle, it was loud. Now here's a detail that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention, and it changes how this whole situation looks. Harry is set to attend an Invictus Games planning meeting while in Australia. And if you follow that closely, it raises a serious question. Because Invictus is a charity that has received major funding, including a £26 million grant from the UK government. So people are asking, could charity money, meant for veterans, be covering parts of what's being described as a private commercial trip trip? One commenter said it straight. Harry is doing an Invictus meeting, so Invictus is paying their costs. That's another scam. The veterans deserve more. That comment spread fast, and it hit a nerve. Now, to be clear, that claim hasn't been confirmed. But here's the issue. It also hasn't been denied. And given the pattern people believe they're seeing, it's a question that isn't going away anytime soon. At the very least, people are expecting a clear answer, because when veterans funding even enters the conversation, the stakes instantly go up.
Some great news, I would say. The UK Home Office, they're trying to block the Duke and Duchess of Sussex from being given taxpayer-funded security. This is the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. They're assessing whether or not to reinstate security provision for Prince Harry and Meghan. Hello, Emily, why on earth should these two be given taxpayer-funded security in the first place? They are no longer working royals.
Now zoom out for a second, because Australia isn't some isolated situation. It's part of a bigger pattern that's starting to connect from multiple angles. And the latest piece of that pattern is coming from somewhere a lot closer to home. And honestly, it's not where you'd expect. Reports are now coming out of Montecito, California, the high-end coastal area where Harry and Meghan have lived since 2020, and the tone is not friendly. According to one resident who spoke to the press, the couple are being avoided like the plague. That line alone got people talking, and it's not just whispers either. Page 6 has already picked up the story, pushing it further into the spotlight. Multiple outlets have now picked this up, and one word keeps coming up again and again from people who actually know the area. Takers. That label alone is raising eyebrows. Now, Montecito is not just any neighborhood. This is a high-profile, ultra-private community. Oprah Winfrey lives there. Rob Lowe has been there. Ellen DeGeneres too. These are people who understand fame, media pressure, and how to live quietly despite it all. And there's an unspoken rule everyone follows when they move in. Blend in, stay low-key, and don't bring chaos to your neighbor's doorstep. That's the culture, and it's taken seriously. But according to people inside that circle, Harry and Meghan have completely ignored that code.
Listen, if you want further proof, any more proof that the Sussexes, particularly Meghan, is in financial trouble, look no further than this. She's hawking herself for a cheapo weekend, or not a cheapo weekend, a cheap-sounding weekend at very high prices.
Yeah.
Come and spend 5 minutes with Meghan. It'll cost you more than $3,000.
I'd rather pay my rent. I'd rather pay my rent than listen to this woman talk her dribble. Her, what do we call it? Word salad. I do love that.
That's what it is. This is rock bottom. What on earth is going on? And of course, this is going to be a part of their next pretend royal tour when they go to Australia in the summer.
And that's where tensions start building. Rob Lowe, who lives nearby and has spoken publicly, claimed that Meghan was sending drones over others' properties. That's not some anonymous rumor. That's an on-record statement from a well-known Hollywood figure, and it got attention fast. Then there's the story people in Montecito keep repeating. The elderly veteran neighbor. This was someone who simply wanted to be welcoming. He had a DVD about local history and thought it would be a nice gesture to share. He went up to their security gate. The guard called the house, and the response came back cold. He could leave the DVD at the gate. That moment didn't stay private. It spread through the community quickly, and one commenter summed it up in a way that stuck. That man missed a bullet and should consider himself lucky. That kind of story doesn't just fade. It shapes how people see you. And in a place like Montecito, reputation travels fast. And then there's a quote that might reveal more about Meghan's self-image than anything else she's ever said publicly. When asked why Archie wasn't part of any local playgroups, her reported answer was simple: because he's too famous. That line alone had people stunned.
Smile on our faces at 9:30, because the one piece of good news that's come out of a miserable day is that Meghan Markle's been cancelled by Netflix.
This is Montecito we're talking about, where high-profile families live quietly, where even Oprah's grandchildren are said to move around without all that noise. So hearing that raised a lot of eyebrows fast. Then came the recent Variety piece, and commentators didn't hold back. They described it as tough and unforgiving. It went into the Netflix deal struggles, the projects that never fully came together, and the growing perception from people who've interacted with them. As Kinsey Schofield put it on air, they're seen as takers, and that word keeps coming back again and again. There's also this feeling being repeated in different circles. People are just tired of it all. And then there's the friendship with David Foster and Catherine McPhee. Early on, it was highlighted everywhere as proof that Harry was building strong Hollywood connections. But now, silence. No updates, no explanations, just distance. It faded out the same way other relationships around them seemed to, quietly and without answers.
And she just couldn't actually see the role of the monarchy and what it meant. And when it was explained to her that this is the institution, this is how it works, this is how we go and we meet people and we go on walkabouts, but she couldn't quite understanding.
And now someone is asking what might be the most pointed question yet, and it's getting attention fast. Will Meghan's own circle at the Montecito bookstore, the same place she's publicly supported, visited, and posed for photos, be stocking Tom Bauer's new book, Betrayal? Because when that book drops, it's going to create a moment people won't ignore. Now step back for a second, because all of this, Australia, Montecito, the publishing buzz, it's not random. It's all connected, and it points to something deeper. At the center of it all is one big issue people keep circling back to. They haven't clearly defined what they are. They stepped away from royal duties in 2020 and spoke about wanting privacy, normal life, and independence. But at the same time, they kept the titles, Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And those titles aren't just for show. They're the core of their brand, and every major deal tied to it.
Netflix has officially cut ties with Meghan Markle's polarizing lifestyle brand as ever. But there's no other way to spin it, is there? She and Harry have been a massive disappointment for Netflix.
Bill Simmons, who's helping Spotify to monetize their podcasts, had this to say about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. I'm going to play it for you.
I'm going to pose this question to you. You do a lot of business deals, a lot of negotiations.
I do.
Well, let's just.
I wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them.
Netflix didn't invest huge money in just Harry and Meghan from California. The value came from the royal connection. Spotify didn't sign a deal based on a former actress alone. It was about the royal identity attached to it. Across different commentators, the same message keeps coming up. Drop the titles, go by Harry Sussex and Meghan Sussex, and stop operating in this in-between space. Because right now, the criticism is clear. They're being seen as trying to hold on to royal status while living with full celebrity freedom. And that mix is causing friction. The public expects accountability at a royal level, but the approach feels more like Hollywood flexibility, and those two don't align easily. And underneath all of that, there's a financial reality starting to come into focus, and it's raising more questions than answers. Penguin Random House, according to publishing insiders speaking to News Nation, is done with them, and that claim is turning heads fast. Harry's book made money, sure. He reportedly received $20 million, but insiders say the publisher overpaid and may never earn that money back.
Happened on that trip that Australians still can't forgive her for?
Well, you might have additional details that I don't. For the most part, I will say that when they came home from the Australian trip, it was technically a win to the British royal family. And because Meghan was so popular, she was under the false impression that now she had negotiating power. She now had some leverage. And they take this success, this technical success, the positive headlines from the Australian trip, and they start trying to use it to go to the Queen to say, we want to step out of William and Catherine's shadows. We believe we're bigger than them. Behind the scenes, we know that Meghan was saying, I should be getting paid for this. Behind the scenes.
While she's shaking hands with people in Australia.
Yes.
As if to say, I mean, why am I greeting you people?
Peasants. You peasants. I mean, you're a suitcase girl from Deal or No Deal.
And it doesn't stop there. Reports claim Harry has been calling Penguin's offices almost every week, asking about royalties that sources say may never even come. That detail alone has people questioning what's really going on behind the scenes. One insider didn't hold back, saying Harry has a fundamental disconnect to the concept of money and that it can actually run out. That's a serious statement, and it's spreading quickly. Then there's Meghan, who reportedly pitched 2 separate books, one focused on leadership and philanthropy, and another rumored to center around divorce. Both ideas were rejected, and according to reports, the publisher has now stopped responding to their emails entirely. That silence is loud, and people are noticing.
Now bring it all together, because this is where things start to collide.
Tom Bauer's upcoming book, Betrayal, is about to hit shelves, and this isn't light reading or casual gossip.
Meghan Markle, who reportedly was complaining about not being paid while on tour here in Australia back in 2018. I mean, that's pretty startling.
That the fact that she really didn't get to grips with royal life, she was saying that she should have been paid for doing public walkabouts of people that come to see her. It doesn't really paint her in a good light.
Bauer is known as a serious investigative biographer. He spent years digging into this story, speaking to people within their circle, and his last book on Meghan became a #1 bestseller. People are already talking. One commenter said their copy has been dispatched, while another asked if it'll be sold at Meghan's friend's bookstore in Montecito. And that kind of detail matters more than it seems, because this is the exact moment they're stepping into. They're heading to a country where, according to polls, 95% of people surveyed don't want them there, and the timing couldn't be more intense.
I expect there'll be a very different level of public access to them this time. Would they be likely to be doing public events with at meets and greets of members of the public, do you think, or will this all be very tightly controlled?
It will be tightly controlled. I've seen, what I thought was interesting was the announcement included private events. Like wouldn't we just assume that they would want privacy throughout the excursion?
Their spokesperson has already insulted 35,000 people and brushed off their concerns as ridiculous. And that didn't go unnoticed. Their neighbors back in Montecito are now speaking to the press. Their publisher isn't responding anymore. Their Hollywood connections have quietly faded away. And on top of all that, a 400-page book is about to drop, one that people close to the situation have reportedly been worried about for months. As one commenter said with zero hesitation, the Duke and Duchess of No Success continue to reap what they have sown. That line is spreading, and it's hitting hard. And here's the bigger picture you can't ignore. In Montecito, in Australia, in the UK, in Hollywood, no matter where they go, the same pattern keeps showing up. The welcome starts off polite, then it cools down, patience wears thin, and sooner or later, people start talking. That pattern is consistent, and patterns like that don't just appear for no reason. No spokesperson statement, no claims of private funding, no high-priced appearances at £1,700 a seat can change what people are starting to see. At this point, the conversation has shifted, and once that happens, it's incredibly hard to turn it around. If you made it this far, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you watching the Australia visit? And would you actually pay £1,700 to have a conversation with Meghan Markle?